Hello and welcome to Screen Views. I'm Dave.
I'm James.
And this is the weekly podcast where we give our views on a film and TV show.
Each episode is unscripted, unedited, so anything can happen. Listeners should be aware that we do include spoilers, so feel free to fast forward, rewind, or simply buckle up and enjoy a somewhat coherent conversation.
Our podcast is based on the idea that there's no such thing as a bad movie. Therefore, for every review, we'll give a recommendation instead of a rating.
But first up, we're going to have a quick discussion about what we talked about last week to see if our opinions have changed. Here we go. Here we go. Hello. All right, you right? So, we are back. We had an amazing, shining, glowing review last week of the Glow series. Have your opinions changed in the Glow at all?
No, not really.
No. So not to spoil it, because we don't spoil Glow. I think we both mutually agreed that it's worth a watch. I sort of had to get through the first 3 episodes before I realised how good the show was. I would say if you watch the first episode and you're curious, I'd say keep going until the 3rd one, and I think by that point it should grab you. And yeah. Kate Nash is in it, the British singer, which I didn't realise at first, but I see it again and she's in it, and she's pretty good. She's pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm trying to rack my brains as to if there's anything that I want to add, but I can't think of it at the moment. And I would just say, if you haven't seen it yet, watch it. Go back, listen to our podcast if you agree. See if there's anything that we didn't mention that we perhaps should have. And maybe get in touch to let us know.
Twitter, Facebook.
Plug.
Yeah.
Social network. Words.
Yeah. Everything. Boom. Done. Subscribe. Click. Notify.
Right.
This
week.
Yeah, we should.
Think about
Plug.
Luke Cage.
Yeah, we should.
You trying to think of Cage puns?
Yeah. Can't think of it at a time.
Yeah.
We should really punch down this one and
make sure that we give a bulletproof review.
Yeah. Unbreakable. It just said unbreakable, but no, there's no joke there. It's just Luke Cage season 2. Okay, interesting one going into it. Yeah,
so I suppose being up front, we're probably gonna talk about spoilers from season 1.
Spoilers season 1, and also it's really hard to discuss. This is the first in the Marvel series where it hasn't felt like 2 separate halves. Well, with all the other series of Marvel, I felt like there has been sort of a separation of the 2 halves. This is a storyline for the first half, and this is a storyline for the second half.
Yeah.
And this one felt like one continuous storyline, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Or not a continuous storyline. I felt like I know.
Yeah. Where do we start with this one, James?
I'm going to start with one of the points which I enjoyed the most about this.
Okay. Always good to start with a positive.
Yeah, with any superhero stuff, product, I feel like the superhero is always integral to the villain. I mean, that's a classic thing with comic book characters. They're always tied in with the villain. It's always the stories will have to come to a head. What I kind of like about this is that it's nothing to do with Luke Cage. He's just getting in the middle of this war, and it's not really his fight, and he's choosing to be a part of it. And even the villain, even like Bushmaster, who approaches as a new villain, he has no interest in Luke Cage until Luke Cage literally walks into his house.
Gets in his way.
Yeah, that's the only time that's the only reason why he then starts getting involved with Luke Cage. Luke Cage never broke into his house. He wouldn't have bothered with Luke Cage.
Right.
And I thought that was quite interesting. I like the we've said it a lot with Glow. There's lots of elements of grey in this one, and it's quite interesting the way the villains aren't 100% bad, no matter how you look at it. Even the villain from the first series, Mariah
Stokes.
Yeah, Mariah Stokes. She was just seen as a villainous person in the first one, but looking at the relationship between the police and how the police treat her in this one is sort of, I don't know, it's sort of interesting the way you just see more of a world rather than just good and bad. More of a, this stuff is going to happen. How are we just going to deal with it from day to day, rather than how can we just stop it completely? I thought that was a kind of interesting sort of aspect of the TV show. That's my first reactions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with my positives.
Mm.
I think the show is quite well directed.
Yeah.
I think the cinematography is good.
Mm.
I think the editing's good.
Mm.
I think the fight sequences are done quite well. In regards to directing, cinematography, editing.
Yeah.
They're always, I think that's one of the positives of the Netflix Marvel branch, is that the fight scenes are always quite impressive, quite well coordinated, quite well put together.
Yeah.
And that's my positives of the series.
Did you see a lot of negatives in this? And
Yeah, I mean, I can be upfront if you want, James. But
yeah.
I don't. I think this. I hinted on one of our podcasts about getting tired of superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the show that's made me tired of superhero stuff.
Okay.
I think partly because it's about 10 episodes too long.
Okay.
Maybe that's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
But
it's like a 13-episode series.
Yeah. But it just drags on and on and on. And
okay.
and I'm just not impressed by the whole thing. And and some of that's like quite miniature minutia, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Details for just for certain things, and some of it's the whole story, and some of it's just how much time is spent on things that doesn't need to be spent on things. So yeah, I mean, saying it's 10 episodes too long is perhaps a bit harsh, but it is definitely too long for me, and it drags things out that doesn't need to be dragged out. So an example off the top of my head would be the Bushmaster story. So we get this backstory of Bushmaster and why he hates the Stokes family so much. It gets repeated quite a lot, but obviously the main horrific thing that makes him sort of not the bad guy, three-dimensional, sort of talking about, is the bit where he describes how his house was burnt down with his mum in it, and he had to jump out of a window, and she said run, and he ran away. And then we have a whole episode dedicated to flashbacks in Jamaica that we don't really... Well, it's not a whole episode, but it takes up a lot of an episode. Yeah. It doesn't really need to be there, because we've had this story told to us by Bushmaster, and that was dramatic enough. Yeah. Yet we have to, for some reason, we have to labour the point... in this series, and we have to see it. And then the flashback, we don't see him thrown out of a window and then just running off. We see him thrown out the window, and then the Grandma Stokes is stood there throwing papers into the fire, saying, "Oh, I lit the fire." I mean, what I quite liked initially was that it was ambiguous as to whether it was it was almost like he made the connection that it was the Stokes, because the rum that was used to light the fire was the Bushmaster rum that they fought over, but there was no physical evidence as to that it was the actual state. But then we see this flashback, and she's literally stood there throwing papers, going, "Oh, I lit the fire," and him as a child is like looking at just like, you know, so that is for me that was a fundamental example of why, you know, you take something that's quite interesting, which is an ambiguous story, which is his whole motivation for wanting to kill Mariah, and you just make it so expositional, so obvious that it was them, that there's no nuance.
Yeah.
Where's the nuance? And I just got to a point where I just don't care like about any of the characters in this series, and I don't know whether it's just subjective opinion or not, but like for me it just dragged on and on and on, and like and some of the what I thought was it took a whole season to get to a point that was quite interesting, that it could have got to quite quickly. I think you know, so I don't know, I just like I came away from this thinking that, you know, this is really starting to question whether the superhero sort of genre is just too saturated at the moment, and you know, and I almost think that the Netflix Marvel is becoming like some of the things that were strong about it or that were interesting about it are now becoming a sort of a bit of a trope. You know, and
yeah. I mean, in terms of like it dragging on, I felt like that with the first series quite a lot, when especially after Cottonmouth died.
Yeah,
I felt it just started to drag.
Have you noticed how you've got to have two villains in the Luke Cage series? So you had Cottonmouth and Diamondback in the first one, and then you got Bushmaster and Mariah Stokes in the second one.
Yes and no, because you can say the same thing about Daredevil as well.
But that's what I mean about it becoming its own trope. But it's like they've got to have a two villain pronged.
But like I say, I think I don't know. I felt like this. It kept on. I think the statements it made in the first series, I think, were a bit great that them statements were made in terms of that culture and everything. But I thought they were just more subtle here. I think it's really interesting in terms of like the different how Jamaicans are seen in that sort of society. It's all about like that we've already like the uncle of Bushmaster was saying like we already have a stereotype here. You're coming in here and you're acting like this, you're just perpetuating the same stereotype. You got to do this a different way. You can't do it this way. Look at what we're trying to build here. We have nothing, and you're coming in here and like people think we're thugs, and you're just coming in here being a thug. You're not helping us change it. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. And
I don't necessarily disagree with that. And I think you know what is the racial aspect of both the first and the second season is quite interesting, and it is an interesting show from that point of view. You know, and yeah, and I get that, and some of the most interesting parts of the show was when Bushmaster's talking about like Jamaican history and culture and that sort of thing. So I do think those elements are quite interesting, but they just take takes too long all the time, like with a lot of the stuff.
I just remember I really liked. Oh, I loved the Shade storyline. I mean, I don't like it when a character is portrayed as different to heterosexual, so pansexual or homosexual. I don't like it when it's done as a statement. I hate it. I like it when it's if it's a passing comment. I like it if it's, and I loved the sort of like when you found out that he was actually in a homosexual relationship within prison. And he's saying to himself, "Well, it's just prison, and that's what we're on the inside, and no one really understand that on the outside." And the other guy going, "Well, I hear you, but that wasn't what I was thinking. I don't think that's what you're thinking as well." And I thought that was quite interesting, refreshing, and and so once they've made that statement, it hasn't changed the character at all. So the character after that conversation, the character before the conversation is still the same character. So I found that sort of exploration of sexuality, sexuality. Yeah, that aspect, bringing that aspect of sexuality in, but not making it a driving force of the show. I thought that was kind of interesting. Although it was kind of interesting, there was no, because Claire was gone quite early on in the beginning, there's no sort of love interest within the show, and that aspect of because that's quite a big thing, and that was quite a big thing a lot of the time in when it comes to damsel in distress when it comes to superhero movies. There's no sort of like big damsel in distress, and I really liked the way everybody started to kept mentioning they want to hire Luke, because obviously in the comic books, Luke is a hero for hire. He gets hired to save people and look after people, and so it's kind of interesting the way they kept on mentioning, well, we want to hire you. Can you be on our side? Can we hire you? I'm just rambling off loads of loads of things that I found interesting. I guess like I say, Bushmaster got away in the end, but I didn't feel like the villain got away. And I don't know. I kind of liked the.
Well, that's because he sort of wasn't the villain in lots of ways, wasn't he? Like you said at the start, he.
I like the way Luke Cage sort of said, "Look, I understand you. Let us try and do this a different way." And like with the Punisher did with like Daredevil and the Punisher. Like, let's do this, but no killing. Okay, let's. And I thought that was quite interesting. I like the idea that we don't understand why Bushmaster is the way he is.
But we do. It's like fully explained over and over again.
Well,
like literally 1,000 times.
Well, no one knows why the.
What do you mean in terms of his superpowers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole like sequence dedicated to that. So he gets injected by some like evil people with something that contains nightshade. Everybody else dies.
Yeah.
He then survives,
but
which
no one knows why he
that
survives.
Yeah, but like,
and also the nightshade sort of brings out. So there's something. I know
it reveals it doesn't heal.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of. I don't know. It's the whole trope of like someone. I don't know. I kind of like the way there was a few elements which made him to reveal like he's got that strength. It wasn't like just one experiment. It was sort of like he got injected with that earlier on, then later on in life he got shot, and then they put these two things together. It's like I don't know. I kind of like with the Amazing Spider-Man. Only Peter Parker could have become Spider-Man. It's a combination of his dad's DNA, which injected into the spider experiment, and the spider biting him, that becomes in Spider-Man. It's not just like that one thing. I kind of like the idea of multiple things becoming. It's like with the Hulk film, not the Incredible Hulk. The Hulk film, Bruce Banner was experimented on as a baby, and it's a cross between that and the gamma radiation that made him become the Incredible Hulk. No one can actually reproduce his situation. I don't know. It's something which I kind of look out for when it comes to superhero films, and then this TV show did the thing which I look out for.
Yeah,
and I was kind of
isn't Luke Cage? That's sort of his thing as well.
Luke,
like he was the only one that survived the experiment.
Yeah, but one of like a multiple thing. It wasn't like multiple things at the same. It wasn't like. Yeah. So when they tried to heal when he got shot for the first time, tried to heal him, it's not like they knew that he'll become super strong and he'll repel the bullet. It's sort of like this might help. This might, because it doesn't work on anyone else like it works on him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's because it's like a poison for other people, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Danny Rand was in an episode.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another trope, is that you've got to have somebody else from the other series turn up for an episode. Comes up like one episode too late, and then they sort of like do nothing, which like doesn't actually move the story along, other than like burning down a Nightshade warehouse. It's just like a whole pointless episode about Chi and all that. Have you noticed how Danny Rand always mentions he's like the annoying rich person who's been on a year out, a gap year traveling. Oh yeah, when I was traveling, blah 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 blah. Yeah, when I was like
You've just
traveling.
described the character. He is an annoying rich person who has been out of society.
But it's just like on a gap year. Yeah, I know he's like
That's literally that's his character there.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make me want to see Iron Fist, which like is I think season 2's coming in September.
Well,
are we gonna have to review that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So that's
in terms of Danny's fighting styles, because I know he was really rushed in the Iron Fist film, Iron Fist TV show. He had hardly any training. I felt the actual action sequences when Iron Fist was a lot better in this film, and it's also how they filmed them both together. Oh, and that's also another point which I thought this does really well, because females as fighting villainous characters, are all stereotypical over muscly, and it becomes a bit of a trope. You know, the villain in Deadpool, sort of like really muscly, unbreakable skin, and like all the James Bond female villains has been big henchwomen. You never really see any normal. You see normal like skinny blokes and blokes of all different sizes, but it's really interesting women fighting as well, because you just need bodies. You get bodies. Anyone can hold a gun. Anyone can learn to fight as well. I really like the way it wasn't like a singular woman in that fight with Danny and Luke in that warehouse. It was a mixture of men and women, and it weren't like there was no like proper focus. You have to sort of look out to see who are men and who are women.
right.
And that's not really done that much when it comes to superhero movies. It's normally stereotypically men, and if it is a woman, it's normally one badass woman who's like, oh, what could she do? So I thought that was quite interesting the way they mix it up a little bit. What else did I like?
Did you enjoy the disableist jokes towards Misty for like 4 or 5 episodes?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't understand why her co-workers did it.
Well, like I don't know, but like
I sort of understand everybody else sort of like
for about 5 episodes or maybe more until she gets the arm.
Even when she gets the arm, there's jokes.
Is there?
Yeah.
Really? Because like I just feel sorry for anyone. If this is the culture in America around disabled people, I feel very sorry for anybody who's like lost a limb or is like disabled in America. Because it's just like, is that how people interact? Do we just like make a joke about their disability like every 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And you got to admit, it does dissipate once she's got an arm from Danny Rand. It's like
when it comes to her co-workers, but when it comes to the lawyer and Shade and everybody, they keep going.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
Okay.
Sure. They make a joke when they have Shade.
But it's awful. It's just awful. Like it is like I was, I think it was just quite offensive the way it was. Was sort of portrayed, and it did feel as like, and I know they were trying to make a whole point about that she wasn't whole, and even that was terrible. Was that she couldn't have those visions until she got a fake arm, and then she was starting to get her like power
confidence
back.
And I don't think they stressed on it enough. They did do a little scene. I appreciated it. But 2 big things happened in season 1. In season 1, her co-partner is found out to be a rat.
Yeah.
But we never actually got to see how the people treated her after that, and whether they suspect her, and whether they... Because I felt like it was that as well, but it was only ever mention of the arm. But clearly it was a mixture of like... I know, I feel like it would have been a lot better if there was already doubt, there was people already doubting her position. She's already disrespected before the on thing happens. I don't know. I did like the flashback sequence in terms of seeing the old partner and seeing like how obvious it is and how you want to trust people sometimes, but when you actually look back, you think,
Yeah.
oh, it's pretty obvious that he was a bit dodgy.
Mm.
Because as we all do that when we hear about, like when people have like got done for like certain crimes, and we look back thinking, well, were they dodgy when I knew them? Like, and you look back in like certain situations and think, oh damn, maybe they were dodgy. Yeah, I know some people who've gone down who's been done for theft, and I know one person who's been done for attempted murder. I don't remember them attempted to murder anybody, but doesn't make me look back thinking maybe he was trying to push that bullet. But well, no, I don't know. I came out of it. I thought it was I wasn't expecting to be my only interpretation of Jamaican culture is probably the stereotypes of TV and I don't know, I kind of liked the different looks and that. I kind of liked the way different people in that society, in that sort of backgrounds, in that sort of area, say, "Oh, we don't know if they're talking or singing. We got no idea like what they're saying." And I know I kind of like the different rich dialects we had in there as well. I kind of like the way, like Luke Cage, sort of like thought Bushmaster was an enemy and tried to work with Bushmaster, and I think, I started to understand Bushmaster. Because basically he killed some gangsters, which in that world he does kill some gangsters. It doesn't mean he's a good person, but he's clearly a gangster as well. And then I don't know. I think once when Mariah killed everybody, I don't know. That just drove him over the edge, and I sort of felt like, okay, yeah, okay, you can go kill her. That's fine. He went to kill your whole cult, everybody, and like,
yeah, but like,
she didn't really care who they were. And
even in that sequence, like, there's just like sections, like, so he goes to the club. So there's a like penultimate episode or whatever. He goes to the club, and the daughter tells him she stood there waiting for him, and then she's like, "Oh, where is he?" It's like that whole scene doesn't need to be there. There's just like.
Yeah.
There's bits where they just sort of drag stuff out that doesn't need to be. So the key piece of information there is that he's going to sneak into the club, and he takes all of the serum, which she's told him to only take bits of.
Take a lot of it.
We don't need to see her stood like, if I was going to tell you how to sneak into a building, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, meet me outside there, and then I'll point down the stairs to the big like backdoor alley. I'll just say, yeah, go to this bit where there's and go down the alley. Like, it's just like little bits like that are added throughout that just make it really, really expositional. Yeah. And just drag it out where it doesn't need to be sort of dragged out. And I think the mistake that this series makes for me is that it spends too much time on some stuff and not enough time on the interesting bits, like the cultural stuff or character sort of in some ways like I want to say character development, but I'm not sure that's the right thing, because I almost think that like I just think there's like too much time spent like hashing things out that don't need to be hashed out. And maybe I'm missing something from the style of the show, but I just think it's for me just not making the right choices. And there's like, and I do think that there's so many good actors in this sort of show that just get reduced to like subject of just, I don't know, I think maybe like poor dialogue at times. Like Mariah Stokes, there's some scenes where I think
Mariah Stokes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where I think she's just like, she's working really hard to make this interesting, and she's like earning every single penny like as an actor in this. But even then, it just goes on and on. And, you know, I think that with the sort of... I get what you're saying about the characters in terms of like, well, you know, there's greyness and that sort of thing, but I just get to a point where I just don't. Even Luke Cage, I mean, all the stuff at the end, like, what are you doing? Like, I just don't care. Like, I really don't care. And this thing about Harlem's Paradise, I don't know about you, but if there was a nightclub that got like shot up or like blown up or like basically every week that something bad happens at that nightclub. That nightclub wouldn't sit like we do. Like, how many people would go to a nightclub? Oh yeah, do you want to go to Harlem's Paradise this week? Well, hopefully we won't. There won't be a shootout this week. But hey, let's risk it anyway. And like, people just keep coming back to this club. The insurance on that club must be insane because, like, you know, there's like something happening there all the time.
It's not happening there all the time, is there?
Well, it's like pretty much.
Because like
once an episode.
A lot of the time in season 1, things happened when the club was closed. It was after hours.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. I think, and it's such an iconic place within that environment. It's a place which I don't know. It's with so many people connected to, and so many. Because like if you think about how many gangs there are in the area. How many family members are connected to gangs, which are connected to that place? That place sort of ties in that whole community together.
Right.
And I know you don't. I know you're fresh on this show. There's one more thing which I really enjoyed as well. It was with the Jamaican calf place when Mariah started to shoot people. A chef jumped over the counter. I love the way Shade shot him straight away in instinct, and then you realise that he didn't mean to shoot him. It's just an instinctive thing. And I kind of to see that instant regret on the people, someone who's in the villain side, and someone who's like, and it's also Batman Dark Knight sort of like pointed out as well. It's sort of like there are rules to go by, and like this only works if there are rules, and once you start breaking the rules. And so to see him in that moment, he realised, I've gone too far. This is like too much. And I mean, I pointed out in the Mission Impossible thing, I thought it was kind of interesting the way Ethan Hawke has a rule of like making sure no innocent people sort of die, and like in all the other films, because it's been in an environment of a villainous sort of environment, everybody's sort of expendable because everybody by default is a villain. But all of a sudden, in the new film, is sort of like is in that same environment. I felt very much probably how Shade normally operates in sort of like shady environments. So now he's gone into this public cafe and they're just shooting up these random innocent people. I know. I thought that was quite interesting, seeing the different levels of Shade from the first season. If you asked me in the first season whether I would see different levels of Shades, I would think no, I'm not going to see anything. He's just such a bland character. But I just don't know. He just keeps. I know it got a lot out of his character in this one.
Well, and without that, I mean, like, I'd be struggling.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Oh, and obviously the Reverend Luke's dad is very good.
Yeah, but also Claire as well, talking about like violence, talking about strength and masculinity as well.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to be masculine? To have strength as a male? Is it about muscle and about fear, or is it about strength, or is it about like what does it mean to be a hero in a society? And is Luke a hero? Like, could you see how he ends up? I think, is he right? Is he wrong? Is this? So what is the right way of doing it? I don't know. I like the blends of grey, and I just think also in a lot of superhero movies, they sort of, it's really hard to step from in terms of the next time we see the character. Where can they go now? And I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what Luke is in terms of the future of this series, because you can't predict from the comic book. You can't predict this is how it was going to end. Because everybody assumed that he would have a hero to hire agency at the end of this with Iron Fist, because how the comic him and Iron Fist team up, and they are heroes for hire. But no, he's sort of like he runs sort of like the gang culture, and so how far can he run the gang culture when no one gets hurt before it becomes an issue? And
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I care. Sorry, James.
Yeah.
Like, I get what you're saying. Like, I think it just could have been a bit tighter.
Yeah.
I think maybe I know I started off by saying it's 10 episodes too long, but maybe 8 to 10 episodes, and it would have been just a much tighter series.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of Netflix shows there. This one more dramatically than all the others. Well, actually, just Jessica Jones was worse.
Definitely, yeah. No, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Although, I think this one does come close for me, unfortunately.
I enjoyed this one more than the first one. More than the first Luke Cage.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't think I was like, oh my god, first season amazing, but I think I enjoyed the first season a bit more than this one.
I felt like I'm more rewarded because I need to do more work to look into the characters, to understand the characters a lot more, and the messages they are trying to portray. And I feel like with the first one, it was very much in your face.
Yeah, see, I think this one was like in your face, but yeah. Did you watch it in the background though, or did you give like full attention to it?
So a bit of both. So towards the start of the season, and the end of the season, I watched full attention, but I think in the middle it was quite background because I binged it in a day.
Yeah.
So that's what I do with the Marvel series. So I always binge them in one day.
So I think if you've got it on in the background, maybe it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, for me, like I always give full attention, so it's difficult for me to judge.
Yeah.
But I think in giving my full attention, I feel like a lot of my time has been wasted going over ground that doesn't need to be going over, and either that's flashing back or explaining stuff that's happened in the first season, or explaining stuff that's already been explained. And I guess if you're skimming over those kind of things, it perhaps doesn't feel as drawn out as if for me, I'm like watching it and watching it and watching it, and it does feel like it's dragged on.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of appreciate we've got like a platform to leap off from. I feel like at the end of the first Luke Cage, he went to the prison, didn't he? Yeah, and then this one, he's sort of like, so I don't know. I sort of commend this show in terms of like they do leave it in a position where you don't know where clearly there needs to be more development. When I think when it comes to Iron Fist, when it comes to Daredevil, they sort of round off the show, and even Jessica Jones as well. They sort of like, okay, that's the show, that's the season over. All storylines are tied up, and onto the next story.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what they did with this, with like Bushmaster and Mariah Stokes, and those storylines are kind of tied up, and it's only literally like Luke's story.
Thing. Also, now Misty is sort of like the head of the she's got a promotion, hasn't she?
Yeah.
So she's the head of that thing, and I don't know the
there was hints towards Mariah's daughter being
being the next villainous character. I don't know. I just think it's a show which has thought about the future as well, and maybe the present they haven't thought about enough. But I appreciate they've thought about the future.
Yeah. I do agree though. There are some interesting aspects in it, but I just think I just don't like coming away from something thinking that feeling like my time has been wasted watching it. And that's when you're somebody who is pressed for like spare time.
Yeah,
that's not great.
Yeah. I think with the Netflix series as well, they'll always be in the shadow of Daredevil. For me, Daredevil's the best. It hasn't let me down yet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So if we're ranking the shows, Daredevil and season 1 and 2 will always be at the top. And so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always been in the shadows. I know. I think I appreciate this. They tried to do new stuff underneath the storyline. Like I say, it just made me think about different stuff like Jamaican culture, how like different cultures who live in the same sort of area sort of look at each other, different shades of grey, and in terms of how you could think someone is a pure villain, but then actually try and work with them later on, and how a good person can sort of be turned into shades of greyness.
Yeah.
Because that Luke Cage was purely good in season 1.
Yeah, I just sort of think there's better things out there that do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, let's I thought it was alright. I'm quite looking forward to finding out how the characters leaped up from here. We don't know when the character's going to turn up again. So it could be another Defender series, or it could be in the Iron Fist series, which I don't think there will be. I'm actually really looking forward to the Iron Fist series. I didn't like the first series, but I don't. I think Marvel sort of rushed Iron Fist series. I think given their time, and that's why I like because I like the choreography of Iron Fist in Luke Cage season 2. And it makes me more excited about I'm going to see some interesting action sequences in the next one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to get bored, so
okay.
and I haven't seen season 1 of Iron Fist, so watching season 2 of Iron Fist feels like a struggle. We don't have to do it yet.
No.
Anyway, because it's not out till September. So
yeah.
All right. Do we need to give this show a recommendation? Shall I get mine over with quick?
Yeah.
Don't watch it. That's my
no such thing as a bad TV show. Yeah.
No, is that too harsh? I don't know.
Watch in the background.
Maybe, that might be easier than full attention.
Yeah. You're not going to miss anything. If you miss half an hour of the show, you'll really miss that much.
But that's my point, is because it's so explained. It becomes annoying if you're giving it your full attention.
Yeah, I suppose
so. I suppose if I'm going to give it any recommendation, it would be don't give it your full attention.
Yeah, background while you're doing the washing up, while you're cooking, maybe.
Yeah. Or doing the ironing or something.
Yeah.
Or when you're just multitasking.
Yeah. So
But is that how most people consume stuff now?
I put stuff on when I'm washing up.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking out loud now in terms of how people consume stuff, and that's sort of based on cinema going experience, where there's something people just so used to having multiple screens of stuff. So you've got TV on, but you're also playing a game on your phone, or you're browsing the web or social media. Or
this would be a good one if you're hoovering up every now and again. Because when you're hoovering up, you sometimes miss chunks of dialogue. No matter how loud you get the TV, that Hoover's always going to be out loud, louding it. So yeah, if you're hoovering up and you want something to watch, this one's a good one to watch. Yeah, 'cause it looks good as well. Cinematography looks good, and I like.
I mean, I have, like I said at the start, I have to say I do think it was directed really well. I think they've worked with what they've got. It just maybe just could have been tighter.
Yeah.
Is it 13 episode? Is that a rule for the?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Which like I say, I appreciated this was one story. Felt like one storyline. But I think the approach to this sort of over-draggedness on the Netflix series either been about a halfway point. So you pretty much split Daredevil season 2 into the Punisher part and the Elektra part. You can just pretty much split Luke Cage season 1 into the into
Bushmouth,
Cottonmouth,
yeah.
and
Right, yeah, season 1. So.
and the Diamondback.
Yeah.
With this one, it was just one flowing story, which I don't know. I appreciated that it was a change of pace. However, the negative side of that is that it does drag on even longer because there doesn't feel like there's any mid-season sort of finale episode.
Yeah,
when
that's
all the other
yeah.
Netflix series do have a like sort of mid-season finale. So
yeah, I just think just kill people off. Just do it. Have the balls to do it. Be Game of Thrones. Just like.
What do you mean?
Well, I think. So in a world of post Game of Thrones, we're now in the and I know you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but in the world of Game of Thrones, you get characters that are built up, and characters that are killed off, characters that are kept on, and you have characters who are good, bad, ugly, 3-dimensional, but the point is that like quite often things don't feel forced or dragged out because they have the ability to sort of kill somebody off. So I think if Luke Cage this season could have been very much more interesting if they'd like killed one of the people off earlier. I don't know, like I may be clutching at straws a bit here.
If we weren't going about Luke Cage, I would agree with you. Because they did do that in season 1, and it's more of a negative than a positive because they replaced the villain with a worse villain. Because Cottonmouth was a really interesting, intriguing character.
Yeah, true. And then Diamondback was.
And there's no build up to his death. It was just like a random scene, and he just winded up Mariah, and Mariah just throws him out the window. And so they do that, and that's kind of refreshing. But like I say, the villain after that wasn't as intriguing and wasn't as
it got very comic book after that, I guess. But
I also normally hate the fact that they normally create characters after their world's been created, and so at first I hated that she had a daughter and there was one mentioned in season 1, but then I found it kind of interesting that the daughter's the result of a rape, and it's sort of like, well, of course you wouldn't want. Well, I don't know. Not of course, but I don't know. I kind of liked the way that was something that annoyed me at first, but then I also found it kind of interesting, thinking, well, you've also given me a reason why she wouldn't really want to contact the daughter. She's only contacting the daughter now because she needs that sort of family vote.
Yeah.
She's only using her daughter. She didn't really love her daughter. She's just using her daughter. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's all right. It's a Hoover movie. And I enjoyed it. Like I say, I really enjoyed that. I know the more I think about it, the more things I like within the characters. Maybe not how the characters work in this playing field, but the characters separately. I don't know. I kind of liked. I like misunderstanding as well. I like the way the villain is not really a proper villain that has threat.
Yeah,
as an understanding to him, and he's reasonable. But how we're introduced to him, he's not reasonable. He's just crazy. Slowly we understand that he's not crazy, and just a different approach. I know that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right then. Well, I think that's all for this week.
We need to. What are we gonna do next?
Goliath, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it yet. I'm not started watching it yet. But is season 2 out already?
Yeah, that's why we were gonna look at it.
The whole season, or is it just week to week?
No, so it's all there.
Go. Okay. I could try and I'm gonna try catch up to season 2 by next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I've seen season 1 and 2. I sort of binged season 2 a little bit, but yeah, I can't remember why. Well, yeah. So what are your thoughts about it? Do you know anything about it at all?
No, I know Billy Bob Thornton's in it.
Yeah,
and I've seen the poster.
So just to recap, it's available on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So not a Netflix one.
No.
It's got Billy Bob Thornton in it. He's probably the big famous person in it. But in the first season, there's a lot of, and the second season actually, there's a lot of recognisable actors that you'll be like, oh, okay, they're pretty big. So it's got a good like supporting cast, and it's about a sort of lawyer show.
Cool.
So it's he's a lawyer who has been a very successful lawyer, and the show starts with him at a point in his career where he's like basically living out of a motel and he's not really doing much lawyering.
Damn.
And he drinks a lot.
Cool.
And it sort of goes from there.
A lot of women in it. Just looking at the
yeah, it's got quite a strong female cast in it. So so we'll see what you.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you think of it, James.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, we'll see you next week, and hope you're well.
Yeah.
And we're on the Twitters and the Facebooks, and so you're going to be the first to hear from us. Then subscribe. All right. Well, we'll leave for that, and we'll catch you next week. Okay. Be safe. Bye.